All right, here's a couple review questions from various units. First question says, this is the graph of f of x. So that's this one. And then they say, graph the given function where you change f of x based on these transformations. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to take each point and transform them according to that. So here's a point, and the point's -4 and 0. And then the order that you're supposed to do all of these transformations in, like this is A, B, and then there's no C value because it's whatever you add or subtract from D there, or from X, and then this is a D value. So the order you're supposed to do them in is B first, then C, then A, then D. So in this case, B is this spot right there, the thing in front of the X, and what you need to do is divide all the X values by whatever the number is, and it's by -1. Okay, so let's do that. So I take the X value, that's that one, and I divide it by -1. So -4 divided by -1 is a +4. And the Y value doesn't change. Okay, so that's that transformation. Then I have to do C, and there's no C value, so the point just stays. And then A, I have to multiply all the Y values by -2. Okay, so here's the Y value. 0 times -2 is still 0. So the Y value is 0, and of course the X value would just stay at 4. And then the D value right here, it's moving up by 3, so I add 3 to all the Y values. So here's the Y value, I add 3 to it. So the X stays the same, 0 plus 3 is 3. So this point here on the new graph is going to be the point 4 and 3, right about there. Okay, let's do one more point. And then you just do all of them. Let's do that point right there. So it's -3 and 2, -3 and 2. So -3 and 2. So the first they say divide all the x's by -1. -3 divided -1 would be a +3. And the y value stays. No c value. And then here a, it changes the y value, so the 4 stays. So I have to multiply all the y values by -2. So 2 times -2 would be -4. And then the d value, I'm adding 3 to all the y values, so -4 plus 3 would be -1. So this point here would be transformed to 4 and -1. So 4, would that be right? How did I get a 4 there? It should have stayed as a 3. What was I thinking here? That's a 3 and that's a 3. There we go. So 3 and -1. 3, -1. There's my dot right there. Okay, and then you just do the same thing for each of the other points. All right, here's a question. You need to solve this equation. It's a rational equation, so what I would do is find the lowest common denominator. To do that, you need to factor everything. So this last one, I'm going to factor that to x minus 9, x plus 9. Then I can use the clear fractions rule, commonly known as the I hate fraction rule. So you find the lowest common denominator, which will be x minus 9, x plus 9, and you multiply every term by it. So you're actually not changing the denominator. You're just finding what would be a lowest common denominator, and then you're multiplying everything by it. This one, x minus 9, x plus 9. So in the first one, the x minus 9's cancel, and I'll be left with x times x plus 9. X plus 9's cancel, I'm left with -9 times x minus 9 equals, this whole thing cancels, so it equals 162. Now I have no fractions, now away I go and solve. So x squared plus 9x minus 9x plus 81 equals 162. These cancel out. So I'll have x squared plus 81 equals 162. Move the 81 to this side. X squared is equal to 81. I think that's what you get when you subtract it. And then take the square root of both sides, and I get plus or minus 9. Feeling fairly good at this point. But when you plug in a 9 right here, 9 minus 9 is 0. Bzz, can't have that. So I can't put in a positive 9, nor could I put a negative 9 here, because that will give me also 0. Therefore, with these ones, it can't be those. So I would say in this question, no solution. Here's another one. This question, same as one before. It's an equation, so I find the lowest common denominator and multiply everything by it. I'm doing a video, Caitlin. All right, so my lowest common denominator will be 6. I guess you could say negative 6 if you want. So let's do that. Take everything and times it by a negative 6. Negative 6. Negative 6. So here the negatives cancel. 6 times 2 is 12. Divide 3 would be 4x. Negative 6 divided 3 would be a negative 2. So this would be minus 2 equals. The negative 6 is canceled, so this would just be 1x. And here, negative 6 divided by 6 would be a negative 1. Now gather like terms, so 4x minus x is equal to negative 1 plus 2. So 3x is equal to 1, or x is equal to a third. Okay, second last one. This one, it says, I think to graph this. So what I first need to do is to see if I can factor that first. It's an x to the fourth, which is a little funny, but it looks like I can take out an x squared out of everything. Leave me with x squared minus 5x plus 6. And then x squared times, I think this comes to x minus 3x minus 2 if you factor it. So the zeros, if I'm looking for the x-intercepts, the things that'll make this whole expression 0, I can get using the 0 property. So this x squared, I could say, I could break that into 2 x's. I like to do that. So it's x times x minus 3 times x minus 2. So either this one, x equals 0, or this one, x equals 0, or this one, x equals 3, or this one, x equals positive 2. Right? With each of those, it would be like x minus 2 is 0, and then you'd add 2 to both sides to come up with this. So for x-intercepts, this one has a multiplicity of 2, so there's going to be a bump at that point. Let me just label the points here, though. So this would be 0. Something is happening there. I typically put a circle around it just to remind me if something happens there. Something happens at 3, and something happens at 2. So if this is a quartic, I know that starts high and comes down. Since it's a quartic, there'd be 3 bumps. So there's 1 bump, 2 bumps, 3 bumps. So it's sort of like a W graph. So I'm going to come down, and because this has a multiplicity of 2, that's where it just comes down and touches and bounces back up. So it's a bounce. Then it'll come back down through this point, because there's only one of them, that one. And it'll come back and go up through that point. Again, it doesn't bounce or bend because there's only one of those at that point. Okay, so that's what the graph would look like, something like that. Last question, solving this exponential equation. So first thing I would do is take this and move it to the other side of the equation. So I'll add it on both sides. So on the right side, it'll be positive 1.77 to the x. Now, I don't have there's no way that I can get common bases there. So I can either log both sides or change this to log form. I sort of like change it to the log form. So log, my base is this one, 1.77 of 300 is equal to x. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a base 1.77 on my calculator. I just have base 10 and base e, but I have the change of base formula that says I can take the log of any base, let's pick 10 because it's on my calculator, of 300 divided by the log base 10 of whatever the base was. That's a change of base formula. Now you can plug that into your calculator and give it to 3 decimal places. All right, hopefully that helped you out.